What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Titletown South Florida. We're back with our second episode. I'm your host, Andre Fernandez, talking some high school football. We're back after a 2-week hiatus. A lot has happened since I was out at Archbishop McCarthy for that preseason opener against Palmetto. The first real football week of the season, has begun. Games have started. Now it's for real. And we got a lot to talk about. We're going to talk a little bit, first off, the return of Columbus, one of the powerhouses, the traditional powerhouses in the state. And, of course, Miami-Dade County had a big win to start off against Southridge. We're going to go over that one. And then we're going to go over the top 20 teams, where the Explorers land and everybody else, looking ahead to the big Broward football showcase. If you notice my background, that's an aerial shot of St. Thomas Aquinas. That's where two of the biggest games in the annual Broward football showcase will take place this weekend on Saturday. Both those games on ESPN. The others will be streamed online. So check those out, and we'll go in detail as to which are the best matchups in that. We're going to talk about a surprise team that cracked our top 20 after a big week 1 victory. They're on the north end of town. They like to play a lot of Ironman football. I have one of the longest standing coaches in South Florida. If I gave you enough hints, you might have figured it out already. I'm talking about the North Miami Beach Chargers. We're going to feature them in this show, talking a little bit about what Coach Jeff Bertani and those guys are up to and the potential that the Chargers have for the upcoming season. Then we're going to dive into the matchups. Chaminade has a big one in the showcase. True North against Coconut Creek is the lone Dade versus Broward matchup in the event. We'll dive into that and a few other games that aren't in the showcase but are still marquee games. But without further ado, let's start with the return of those Explorers, coming off a 4-8 season last year. Looks like they're back to their winning ways. Just how much they're going to win this year remains to be seen. But they were very impressive against Southridge. Here's a look at some of the highlights. Columbus last Thursday night showing why they are back. Here's Sanjay Green with a touchdown catch from Kai Moore to start things off in their matchup against Southridge down at Sam Burley Park. The Explorers jumped all over the Spartans early on. Even though the Spartans can still play a little defense. We see an interception here early of Kai Moore to keep Southridge in it in the early going in this game. But it wasn't to last as Columbus showed their depth and why they're back amongst the contenders. Here's Moore going deep to Tony Brown III for a touchdown. 45-7, the Explorers roll. Yeah, and as you can see there, plenty of offensive weapons again for the Explorers, who look like a contender again in Class 6A. We know they have a tough one on their hands with Palmetto coming up in 3 weeks, and they're probably going to be the biggest obstacle in their region. But Columbus moves up to number 6 in our top 20 that we're going to get to in a second. But to say that their next 2 games are brutal might be an understatement. They're going to be playing both of them at that field I just mentioned a little while ago at St. Thomas Aquinas. They're going to be playing the number 1 team in the country in Las Vegas Bishop Gorman as part of that showcase. And the week after that, the home team, Aquinas, which is now the number 2 team in the country, back-to-back for Columbus. So we're going to find out just what the Explorers are made of over the next couple of weeks for sure. Here's new Columbus quarterback Kai Moore and Coach Dave Dunn talking about the road ahead.
So your first start for Columbus, first official start of the regular season. How do you feel like it went tonight?
Went great. Came out and dominated. Did our job. Executed. Just play Columbus football. That's it.
To get that screen pass quick, with Amir, and tell me about the chemistry you guys have developed on the field.
We just working every day after practice. Putting in extra hours, putting in extra. Developing, knowing the plays, going through everything really.
This kind of show Columbus is back.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. For you, what do you feel like you've improved the most as a quarterback this offseason?
Progressions, really. Going through my reads, first read, second read, everything like that. So yeah.
Yeah. This is challenging to say the least the next few weeks.
Yes, sir.
Gorman, Aquinas, you ready for all that?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
We're gonna prepare for battle.
Yeah. How much do you feel like regardless of what happens, how much do you feel you're going to take from that as you keep going for a state championship later?
I'm going to take a lot from that. It's going to be a great experience playing both of those teams, top 2 teams in the nation. So I'm just looking forward to that. I'm excited to play for that game.
Just to open this way, and the way you did, dominant, and be able to come out and, just establish yourselves early. Just tell me a little bit about
We obviously capitalized on some great field position early on. I think our special teams did a good job, and then our defense getting a 3 and out to start. And, we didn't make it easy on ourselves in the first drive. Had a couple dumb penalties early on. But, we were able to hit a couple explosive plays and punch one in. And we seemed to settle down in terms of the penalties as the half wore on. And, I think our physicality really showed, especially at the end of the first half. Being able to kind of run the ball there and punching a score right before halftime. So, proud of our guys' physicality, proud of our conditioning, proud of the grit we showed. Just a lot of things we got to clean up. Is some sloppiness that we got to eliminate. With the opponent we have next week.
Yeah, how'd you see up front, both sides? How'd you see the trenches were today?
I felt good. We had a couple holding penalties that would hurt us, but overall, it felt like we were the more physical team, and that was our thing. We said, our number one goal was to out-hit Southridge, and I felt we did. That was the key to the game, and I think we were able to do that.
Kai's first couple starts, kind of what you've seen out of him as he gets acclimated to this offense.
Yeah, he left a few out there, and he'll do it, but overall, I'll tell you what, he put the ball where it needed to go. He was really accurate, made some good decisions, hit some big explosive pass plays. The play to start the second half was something we work on all the time, and it's a three-man route combination, and we have two really fast guys with Amir dragging all the way behind. So some pretty good options, and he saw Tony Brown on the deep post, and he was able to put it right on the money.
Yeah, you showed your depth tonight. I mean, it's back again to really have a lot of those options all over the field.
Yeah.
Tell me about that. The importance, obviously, of having that again at this program that's had it for so many years.
Yeah, definitely. It's nice to have some depth. When we can give them multiple personnel packages, which we probably were limited that last year. We can play one back, two tight ends, and two running backs, and we can put four wide receivers on the field, and that I think is going to make us hopefully a tough team to defend. Yeah. I thought our defense played great. I thought they tackled at a high level, continually put pressure on the quarterback today. Forced turnovers. Complete team win. Some things we got to clean up, but I thought our defense was lights out tonight.
Yeah, you mentioned it, but if you can just talk about what the next 3 weeks, regardless of what happens, what the next 3 weeks will do for your program going forward.
Yeah, it's a gauntlet to start with. Southridge, Gorman, Aquinas, and Palmetto. Yeah. It's definitely that's why we put a big emphasis on conditioning in the summer, and really we said, hey, listen, we can't get off to a bad start in any game because our schedule's so loaded, with the teams we have to play. So I thought our guys came out and really, got off to a good start. We just got to keep, capitalizing on the opportunities we get in a football game like we did tonight. I would like to think that obviously Gorman is not going to, turn the ball over as much, and we're going to have to earn everything we get, next week.
Yeah, and that's for sure. They're going to have to earn every inch of the field against a team like Gorman with the pedigree that they have, multiple national championships, a team that, again, looks like they're in the driver's seat to win one this season. Speaking of rankings, if you missed it, we come out with it every Monday or Tuesday, sometimes depending on the day, but it's early in the week, our South Florida top 20. And here's a look at it. If you see here, of course, St. Thomas Aquinas, as I mentioned before, has ascended to the number 2 spot nationally, according to Max Preps. Other outlets have them pretty high up as well. We have them at number 1, not likely to move there the entire season if they keep things going. They rolled over Western 42-0 after they rolled Sarasota Cardinal Mooney. Now, as I mentioned before, they're going to face DeSoto, Texas at home in that nationally televised game. Number 2 spot, Chaminade holding steady. They come out with a strong victory, 49-22 over Monarch in their opener. Great performance there by their new quarterback, Brady Quinn. We'll hear from him later on in the show. And also, a little shout out to the Monarch quarterback. I know they lost big, but Jeremiah Millicent had a heck of a performance, 334 yards and 3 touchdowns in defeat. Monarch looking good. They're ranked a little bit lower in the poll, but they're also there. We're going to talk a little bit about them. Central at number 3 now after a big win on the West Coast at Orange Lutheran, 23-22. Heroic performance at the end by James Perrone, their new quarterback that transferred over from Southridge, got the late touchdown. The Rockets look good. Orange Lutheran is one of the better teams in the country, so that's a solid victory on the road. Carroll City. Everybody talking about Carroll City, and for good reason. Again, a dominant performance this time on the road against Daytona Beach Mainland. Comes up with a 38-3 victory. They're going to be on the road again this week, going up to Georgia to face Lee County. They're putting in those miles, the Chiefs are, early in the year. Palmetto handled business against a solid Killian team. It was close for a half. They pull away 35-0 to claim another Big Cat trophy. We mentioned Columbus at number 6. Keep an eye on Northwestern at number 7. They're 1-0. Again, speaking of solid road wins, beats a good St. Pete Lakewood team. The Bulls, want to remind everybody that they're still the Bulls. They're going to have chances to do that in the coming weeks. American Heritage drops a little bit, down to 8. They were in the top 3 last week, got humbled a little bit by a very good West Boca team that's coming off 2 state titles and looks like they could win a third, 24-7. Heritage a little banged up right now. Brutal opening schedule for them. that continues this week in a showcase game against East St. Louis. True North was idle. We won't move up to 9. They're coming up with a good game this week that we'll talk about later. The aforementioned MacArthur kicked off the showcase, unfortunately for them, with an L, but they stay in the top 10. They played a quality Mandarin team, lost 38-21. Coconut Creek, the team that'll face True North, crushed Plantation 48-0. They're at 11, followed by Gibbons, which edged out a competitive Miramar squad 14-7. Archbishop McCarthy didn't get to start officially yet. They lost in the preseason. They're at 13. Dillard over Piper 44-21. We mentioned Monarch. That's where they are at number 15. Matter with an eye-opening 66 points against Hialeah. Ice Harris and those guys trying to build it up at Matter Academy. We'll see how they do in the coming weeks. Cypress Bay, which we mentioned last time we had the show, could be a breakout team in Broward, opens with a 28-21 win over Plantation. Norland trying to prove they're still among the better teams. They come out with a good win over South Dade 20-0. We mentioned the Ridge not falling completely out of the poll yet. Still has some talent over there, has a chance to turn things around after that loss. And that leads me to that North Miami Beach team at number 20 that I mentioned before, 61-3 over Goldman. Look, Goldman, I know, graduated a lot of good players, including Darrell Bell, that went to FSU. But this is a team that was in the regional finals last year, and NMB just completely took them apart. 61-3 win, impressive for them. One of the reasons is Andre Hippolyte, a University of Miami commit, very talented player that is probably one of the ones that's going to be able to take this Chargers team that made it to the FIT Invitational Tournament last year, made it to the finals. This season, Chargers are hoping to make it to the actual playoff bracket and make some noise. Hippolyte's a big reason that I got a chance to catch up with him at the Dolphins Media Day a couple weeks ago. Here's what he had to say about playing for NMB.
It kind of takes someone dedicated and special to play at NMB because you got to play on both sides of the ball.
Yeah.
I know Coach Bertani's tough.
Yeah.
And tell me a little bit about the culture. It's a little different than most schools.
I'll say it's definitely different than most schools. We go hard at it 12 months a year, so it's definitely something that's a culture shock for other people that try to come into the program, but definitely something that, is family-based. It feels like a family, so not something that you don't want to leave. Definitely, it's very different. Everybody go both ways, so you understand the game from a different point of view, which I think Coach Bertani for putting me on the field at all times that he could to showcase myself and my abilities.
Where do you feel like you get the most out of it from playing for a program like that?
I say definitely the determination, the hard work, and just the grit out of it. You got to be determined to play for a program like that, and a coach like that that'll pour into you. You got to pour back into him. It's all about loyalty.
How would you describe yourself as a player for someone who maybe hasn't seen you play?
I say I'm just a player that reacts fast, that plays football, and you see that I love the game of football while I play. I go out there and put on for the people that poured into me every day. The coaches, just got to reward them back for believing in me. So I say I'm a player that, put it all on the line for my team, everybody around me, and everybody that's supporting me.
Yeah, Andre Hippolyte, definitely. This is one of the big-time recruits that NMB has had, college recruits, that NMB has had in recent years. They've produced a lot of talent over the years. Jeff Bertani gets his kids in the school. He's done that for a long time. But looking forward to seeing what Andre Hippolyte could do, not only the rest of this senior season at NMB, but in the future with the Hurricanes. Check out NMB on Friday. They're playing at Travis Powell, their annual neighborhood rivalry game against North Miami. Always a good crowd out there to see when the Chargers and Pioneers face each other. But NMB looking strong. It's going to be could be a tough game for North Miami, but you never know in those rivalry games. And now let's look at up next what we've got, and that's the games of the week. We're going to start with those Broward football showcase games, starting with Hollywood Chaminade taking on Sierra Canyon, a California powerhouse that's coming down to face the Lions down at MacArthur High. This game won't be at Chaminade, 7 o'clock on a Thursday night. Sierra Canyon ranked in the top 20, actually, by Max Preps. Chaminade ranked 21st right now by Max Preps. The rankings obviously have both of these teams with different ranking systems, have them in different spots, but unquestionably two of the best teams in the nation. As we mentioned before, Chaminade looking explosive as always. Brady Quinn, their new quarterback that transferred in from Naples First Baptist, a big reason for that. The thing I want to see here is how Chaminade can defend. I mentioned before, they gave up a lot of passing yards to Monarch last week, 4 touchdown passes. That's not going to cut it against the Sierra Canyon team, so they have to clean things up on that side of the ball. But here's Brady Quinn. I got a chance to catch up with him at the Football Hotbed Media Day a few weeks back. And here he is talking about joining Chaminade and what to expect for the season.
It's just a great opportunity. I've been blessed with the position that I'm in right now, having a great staff and some great talent around me. It's amazing. I'm really looking forward to what we're about to do this season. So I've been playing football all my life. In my freshman year, I was at First Baptist Academy in Naples. My sophomore year, my coach I got fired. So my sophomore year, I went to Naples Lely. And then after that season, I came here. Been kind of around. A lot of stuff been going on. Coaches like getting fired, family stuff, but just got through it, and I'm here. I'm here for good, and I'm ready to go win some state championships. One of the reasons why I came here, because I know Coach Jones and his staff are holding it down, and it's stable. It's just great having those people around you, having someone like Coach Jones to mentor you, and just the welcoming arms they came when I got there, and just how I've adapted to the culture. It's just been amazing. Definitely my athletic ability, my ability to extend plays. I've been getting stronger and faster, and also my ability to read the field. Definitely that's one of the big things I've been working on, and I feel like it's going to pay off this year. Every day it's a battle. Offense and defense going at it every day. Offense has their days and defense has their days, and I feel like going against one of the best defenses in the state just makes me a whole lot better, and it prepares me for what I'm going to face this season. When my goal is to when you search Brady Quinn up, I'm the person that pops up. I have 33 offers. Not committed yet. Just still weighing my options out, taking my visits, see how the season goes, what some teams do, and just weighing all my options, and probably make a decision after the season. I'm not rushing anything, but yeah.
Brady Quinn's heard it before. Everybody thinks of the Brady Quinn from the NFL, from that almost became a Dolphin back in the day. He's hoping this Brady Quinn is hoping to take his career even further than that Brady Quinn did. He's off to a good start at Chaminade. I think for this game, if Chaminade can clean things up, like I said before, on defense, they'll be okay. I think they pull it off. A close game, though. It'll be good with Sierra Canyon. Good early test for the Lions, who will do a little better, I think, in this year's showcase than they have in the last couple down there. Looking at another game to highlight from the Broward showcase, and that's the one I said before, the Dade-Broward battle between True North and Coconut Creek. These are two teams that have their sights set on potentially not just making the playoffs, but making a run at state championships. True North, for a long time, has been stuck behind Chaminade. That's no longer the case. Coconut Creek is a team that I don't think enough people talk about being one of the better teams overall, not just in Broward, but maybe in the state. This is a good early test for both sides to come out of this. And I got a chance to see True North in action against Matter Academy in the preseason. Here's some highlights. True North is a state championship contender this season in Class 1A, and here are two reasons why. Zach Katz, their FIU-committed quarterback, making a quick decision and finding Walter Mestre Jr. in the end zone, another FBS-level recruit there on offense. A lot of weapons on offense for the Titans this year, but a lot of aggressive defenders, and you see them in action here, getting a safety early on. This is during their preseason victory over Matter Academy at Tropical Park. That balance might be what sends True North to their first state title this season. Katz later in the game nearly gets picked off, but finds Maestri on a screen. He turns that into a touchdown. Another example of that explosiveness on offense that the Titans possess this year. Later in the game, Katz looks like he's going to run, finds Jaden Daniels, a transfer wide receiver running back that has added explosiveness to that offense. Yeah, and as you can see there, a lot of weapons, like I said, for True North. I think they pull off this game. I think it's close, and True North has just a lot of the balance on both sides of the ball to get it done. But this is kind of a toss-up game. I think it could go either way. I'm picking the Titans, but close. I think Creek is going to have a big year on the Broward side for sure. Switching now to another game that this one does not have to do with the showcase. It's actually scheduled on the same weekend. Could have been worthy of a showcase game. MacArthur taking on Cardinal Gibbons on Friday night at 7 at Gibbons. As we said before, MacArthur coming off a loss, but a respectable one against Mandarin. They're coming in against the Gibbons team that was close against Miramar. This one, again, could come down to maybe a couple plays. I think MacArthur has a lot of high expectations as well this season. I think they're going to bounce back with the talent they have. They have the guys like Jalen Jones, Sherrod Gardine that are going to Miami. A lot of weapons there. Gibbons is always well coached, always has a good chance to beat anybody in the county. And this is one of many challenging games they're going to have early on. The home field will keep them in it, but I just feel like the Mustangs have a point to prove, and they don't want to go 0-2. Also in Dade, you've got Matter Academy, which I just mentioned, had those 66 points against Hialeah, had the loss the week before in those highlights against True North. Can Ice Harris's team pull off a huge one? It would be a huge one if they can beat Palmetto. That's what they're facing Friday night at Tropical Park. The Panthers have shown their depth so far, both against Archbishop McCarthy in the preseason and last week against Killian. And one of the big reasons I think Palmetto has to be taken very seriously to make another run, as they did last year. They got to the Final Four. This year, they have a shot at the title itself, whether it's in the Open or maybe in Class 6A. And that's their quarterback, Jamison Larson. Here's some highlights from that McCarthy game.
Without a doubt, one of the breakout players and quarterbacks in Miami-Dade County and maybe the state this year is Jamison Larson, the Palmetto quarterback, transferred from Wisconsin. Here he's doing his Tim Tebow thing and just bowling over defenders. Shows you what he can do with his legs and his big 6'4", 225-pound frame as he storms into the end zone during Palmetto's preseason win a couple weeks ago at Archbishop McCarthy. Here's the cannon for an arm, zips it right over the middle for a touchdown pass, one of 2 TD passes he threw on that night against the Mavericks. Palmetto looking strong in Class 6A with him leading that offense, but it's not just their offense at Palmetto that has them thinking of another run deep in the playoffs. It's the defense. Look at the plays made here. Tackle for a loss early on in the game. All sorts of weapons for the Panthers this year.
I'm picking the Panthers to come out of this one, and I think they have another big victory. This is nothing against Matter. I think Matter's going to have a solid year. They're one of the more competitive teams in the county, but Palmetto is going to show their depth once again at Tropical Park, I think, on this Friday, and they're going to continue to gather momentum. They also have a tough slate. I know they have Southridge next week, and then the big showdown against Columbus, which more than likely is for the district title, maybe one of two, as these teams have played twice in recent years in the regular season and then the playoffs. Last but not least, the main event Saturday that we led the show off with right there at St. Thomas Aquinas. First off, those Explorers I just mentioned against Las Vegas Bishop Gorman. Columbus is much better this year, granted, but this Gorman team is monstrous up front, weapons all over the field. We've seen them do it before to the best of the best, not just down here, but throughout the country. I think their experience playing in these types of games is going to show and show frequently. Columbus will be fine down the road. I think this one's a bit of a tall obstacle. I'm going with Gorman in this one. And then, of course, St. Thomas Aquinas, the home team, the team that a lot of people think are already trying the crown as a national champion. There's a long way to go for that. It's really a shame they're not playing Gorman this weekend, but they are facing a pretty good DeSoto, Texas team that's also in the national rankings, depending on which poll you look at. They're somewhere in the top 20 to 30 range. Got a strong team that'll challenge Aquinas and really give them a good early test. But this Raiders team, even by their standards, is loaded at every position. They're 2-3 deep wherever you look. Too much for them. I'm going with Aquinas big, probably by maybe 21, 24 points, something like that. I think they're going to open it up and hold home court just fine. And that's it for this episode of Titletown South Florida. We went over everything. We'll be back next week to give you a rundown on where the top teams in South Florida stand and look ahead to the biggest games in week 3 and recap some of the highlights and some of the important things that happened in week 2. We appreciate you as always for watching. I'm Andre Fernandez, Deputy Sports Editor at the Herald, signing off. And thank you for watching Titletown South Florida.